it, we have to consider like what these kids are really wanting to do. And the fact is, if the school doesn't provide an opportunity for me to learn how to use Photoshop or for me to do these digital outlets, I can just go look it up on YouTube and I
Exactly.
can learn how to do it myself. I don't need you.
YouTube University.
Exactly.
And welcome to the Teach Bigger podcast. I'm Tyler,
And this is Chris Pratt.
and we're going to talk about the elephant in the room today: social media and technology.
Yeah, social media and technology. I think it's two things that frighten teachers and administration.
I don't know if it's so much that it frightens them as much as they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, because they use it, but then how do we use it with the children?
Yeah.
So
Children.
this kind of came about because we were discussing, we often talk to our students and we say, hey, what are your plans? Are you going to go to college? What do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? It's the age old question. You start asking kids when they're like 4 years old, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then those kids grow up. And so as we've been asking kids and kind of talking to them about their plans and counseling kids, a trend is starting to emerge that we thought was worthy of conversation today. And that trend is that the overwhelming majority of kids that we start to talk to, they're starting to say, I'm not going to go to college. I'm not going to do the university route because I want to be a YouTuber.
Yeah, a YouTuber.
A YouTuber. And so, a lot of times as educators, we kind of laugh that off and like, oh yeah, good idea. They'll figure it out. But there may be a little bit of truth to this.
Mm-hmm.
As we start to investigate it, the statistics are fairly staggering whenever you start to look at this trend. So currently there's a website called Media Kicks, and we were checking it out, and they give some stats about students' views on what they want to be when they grow up and the trend of technology. So one thing that you might not know, it was kind of staggering to me, is this, that currently right now, YouTube has 1.5 billion monthly active users who watch 1 billion hours of video each day.
That's
Okay?
insane.
Yeah, that's like unfathomable. Like, what's 1 billion? I mean, I know what it is on paper, but what does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, I mean, just to compare, there's only 327.2 million people in America.
Okay.
So, like, that's more than if everybody in America watched 1 hour of YouTube.
So whenever you consider that there are 7.53 billion people in the world, okay, so let's just say 7 billion people in the world. So 1/7 about of the people in the world are watching YouTube for at least an hour a day.
And I know, I'm trying to, I had it a second ago, the exact statistic, but I think it's something like 75% of people between the ages of like 15 and like 29 or 15 and 39, I think it's 39, watch YouTube over TV.
Wow.
Like they'd rather watch YouTube. And if it, it totally makes sense because like Fox News is on there, CNN is on there, the Weather Channel is on there, ESPN is on there, and now YouTube even has YouTube TV where you can watch all that stuff live.
Right.
You don't have to wait for them to post. So like they're already streaming live instead of broadcasting it over a television.
So it's on demand everything. It's on demand learning, it's on demand entertainment, it's on demand news, it's on demand information, period. So, according to some of the statistics that we were studying, here's where things get a little bit edgy. That right now, 75% of children ages 6 to 17, they plan to become YouTubers. That means that 3 out of 4 kids, their aspiration is to become a YouTuber. I remember when I was in school, it was, I'm either going to become a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or an engineer. Those were the options. That's what we were all thinking about. And wow, in just these few short years, maybe 1 or 2 since I've graduated high school, look what has happened. Now, there are 3 out of 4 kids that are planning on pursuing a social media outlet for their career choice. So within that 75%, it kind of breaks it down. Some of them want to be YouTubers, some of them want to be bloggers, right? Some of them want to be movie stars, but it's all that social media engagement. It's all media-based careers.
Yeah, and I mean, like, why wouldn't you want to be? Why wouldn't you want to be a vlogger who goes out and does things that they love doing? You document all of it, and then you come back and you upload it for other people to share. So you're sharing your experiences to the world, and it's fun to watch somebody else go through these experiences or anything like that. And I know that, like, I'm planning on taking, like, traveling, like, I mean, this summer is kind of already over, but like for next coming summer, I'm planning on traveling, and I know that I'm going to travel to a lot of the places that a lot of my favorite vloggers go into. And I found the statistic: 18 to 49 years old spend 74% of their time watching not TV, watching YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
See, and what's so amazing is, like, for our students, this is not an unattainable dream. You know, it used to be if you wanted to be in entertainment, you had to go to Hollywood. I mean, or New York.
You had to be found. You had to be discovered.
Right. And you had to go through the process, and maybe it's you have the right connections or whatever. Now, literally, our kids can use their cell phone and video anything they want in their life and throw it up on YouTube, and they're instantly known. They're instantly famous, at least in their own eyes.
Yeah, and what's crazy to me is the amount of my students who are like my 6th grade students who already have YouTube channels.
Yeah.
And and they literally range from everything from they're playing a video game to they're talking about their problems to there's one boy who he started a YouTube channel, and it's like morning talk on Monday. And like, he literally wakes up 3 hours before school, and he talks about his week at school, that he's and all the things he plans to do, things that are going on in the world, whatever. And he's 12.
Wow.
He's 12.
Wow.
I mean, think about that. Like, that's insane. It's not like when I was a kid. I'm a millennial. So when I was younger, when I was in 6th grade, everybody wanted to be a pro skateboarder.
Right.
You know, like, how obtainable is that?
Right.
Not really. And then it was definitely a total fad. But I don't think that YouTube is a fad, because like, if you wanted to be a pro skateboarder, you had to be discovered. You had to like go out, whatever. If I want to be a professional blogger, vlogger, YouTuber, like media person, then I really just have to go. Like, I already have a computer and I have a smartphone. I'm already armed with everything that I need. I don't need to go buy a skateboard. I don't need to really buy anything extra. Can I? And is it going to help? Of course. So, like, they can go in their room and they can either buy or torrent, because they're probably already tech savvy enough to torrent all the programs that they need, a Photoshop, and make some channel art, make some type of profile picture of some kind, put it up there, record themselves doing that, have that be their first video, and then they're talking about all those things. And another thing that I think is really, really amazing, and that I'm constantly shocked, because like, you would think, oh, all these 6th graders, 12 and 13 years old, they want to start all these gaming channels because they love video games. A lot of my kids, I mean, there are some video gamers, but a lot of them are not video games. A lot of them is like that kid who's talking on Monday. He's like, morning talks on Monday. I don't remember exactly what it's called. And then there's another one who, like, his goal in life is he just wants to collaborate with as many people around the world as possible to make videos. He doesn't care what type of video they are. He just wants to collaborate with a lot of other people around. And what school is going to be able to simulate or even come close to collaboration with someone who's over in France?
Right.
No public school is going to be able to do that.
Yeah. So what do we do with these kids? I mean, do we just keep saying no because you have to take your standardized test. So, I mean, like, what are we doing to serve these kids?
Right. And it's hard to combat this because, like, with the pro skateboarder, because I mean, I fell on to the fad. I wanted to be just like Tony Hawk. And my mom was like, there's no money in that unless you, like, get all these sponsors and all these things and da-da-da. Like, you're not going to have any money with that. Well, like, how do you tell a kid, hey, like, there's no money in YouTube when, like, literally there's hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, who are making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on YouTube?
Yeah, because there is money, because we just found out that 1.5 billion people watch YouTube every month. So there's money. There is. Now, so here's the thing. I think to bring this a little bit closer, and especially if you teach in a middle school or a high school, with programs or extracurricular activities, what's happening is I don't think we've fully realized it yet, but it's something that I'm starting to realize is we have students who are opting out of the opportunity to be in organized activities such as athletics, band, arts, whatever the case may be, because they would rather go this digital route. So case in point, literally today, there was a conversation had with one of the band students at our high school, and great student, good player, contributes, a leader in the band program, decided over the summer no longer wants to be in band. Why? Because they would rather pursue media and start writing their own music and start recording their own music,
Yes.
instead of wasting, quote unquote, time in band, because that's not getting them where they want to be.
Yes, exactly. And I will say that there was a lot of, like, when I joined band because I wanted to just play drums.
Right.
And I thought it would be cool and all these things, and I did want to learn music. But if you would have asked me, I would have just been like, oh, I want to hit the gong, I want to hit the big drum, you know?
Right.
My sixth graders joined band because they wanted to learn music, so that way they could learn how to mix their own stuff, so that way they could make a video about how they made their own intro music, and then, like, collaborate with other people to make more music.
Right.
Like, they wanted to make music. And I'm not saying anything bad against orchestra or concert band or anything like that, but you can't do that playing just the euphonium.
Right.
You can't do that playing just the xylophone. Now, you can use those instruments to create that stuff, but we're only teaching them how to play those instruments. We're not teaching them how to record this stuff. We're not teaching them this whole other platform. And same thing with art. Like, there's a lot of good art things that are going out there, but, like, I mean, how many schools and how well are they teaching, like, Photoshop and things of that nature,
Right.
in order to get them, because these kids want to create. And I personally don't think that there's any other job that comes close to allowing them to create on this level, this magnitude.
Well, and I mean, you just brought up a great point, and we have to consider, like, what these kids are really wanting to do. And the fact is, if the school doesn't provide an opportunity for me to learn how to use Photoshop, or for me to do these digital outlets, I can just go look it up on YouTube.
Exactly.
And I can learn how to do it myself. I don't need you.
YouTube University.
Exactly. So here's the thing. Let's kind of shift gears and think of it in the context of the things that kids need, the skills they need. We've got, math and science and social studies and language arts and all these skills that they need for their future. Okay? Well, you have to begin to realize that if we as educators don't start shaping this in the framework of their world, they're going to start losing the relevance. Like, why do I need to know A, B, or C? Like, whatever example, like if I'm in a, algebra class, or if I'm in a, history class or biology class, why do I need to know this? Because if I want to be a YouTuber, then this isn't relevant to me, or maybe it is, depending on what my YouTube channel is going to be about. But we as educators, I think we owe students this opportunity to make our content relevant in their worlds. But see, there's this huge disconnect because I didn't grow up in this world and I'm just learning this world just like my students are. And we as educators, most of us have had way more time outside of this digital world than we have inside of it. And so in a lot of ways, our students are ahead of us in this. And that's why we tend to push it down and we don't want to see it happen because it's not something we can necessarily control. But at the same time, if we don't get into it, we're running the risk of our students leaving our content or maybe even our institution.
Well, and I think that there's something to be said, like, and I don't know, like, I mean, I'm not saying you're so much older than me, but you're definitely older than me.
I'm not
like,
so much older than you. I'm just a little bit older than you.
But what I'm saying is like my dad, for instance, he was able to learn one skill.
Right.
I mean, he learned math and reading or whatever, and then he specialized in one skill, and he went and he did a job for that one skill, and he had job security, and he had all these things.
Right.
Gone are the days of only needing one skill.
Right.
If there's a kid out there who wants to start a biology YouTube or biology podcast or something where all he does is talk about science, where that happens, I have a student right now. He's super interested in robotics, so he got into robotics and he makes YouTube videos of him building Lego robots that he programs.
Yeah.
I mean, they're nothing special, but like,
right.
So what I'm getting at is that like they may want to be in that biology class, but just that biology class is not going to satisfy him.
Right. And I think a lot of times as teachers, we think, oh, well, isn't that sweet? Isn't that cute? He's going to make a video out of it. But what we don't realize is he has plans to turn this into an income stream.
Yeah.
Right? Like that kid is doing it because there is gain for him.
Yes.
Now, it's not always money. Sometimes it is the passion that they have. And so that kind of brings me to this point. As I was looking at this study, it is very fascinating to find out the motivation of kids. That same motivation of those kids 6 to 17, where 3 out of 4 of them, they want to become social media. They want to become YouTubers or bloggers or vloggers or whatever. Listen to their reasons, right? So the top reason, the number one reason that students claimed that they wanted to become a YouTuber, 24% of them said because it gives them the opportunity to be creative.
Bam. There you go.
Today's, the quote says, today's younger generations are drawn to creative pursuits and crafting content that supports their creativity. Now, I think this is very telling of education. If we are providing a creative outlet for students, they don't feel like they're missing that. But they're turning and running to other forms to get that creative outlet. When we can look at that and say that creativity is higher on the scale than money, I think that we're missing something. And in fact, just to give you some perspective, money was number 4 on the list. So creativity was 24% of the kids, while money was only 9.8% of the kids. So their second one was fame, 11.4%. Okay. Third, at 11%, so very close, was self-expression. So let's start to look at the profile of a kid that wants to, quote unquote, become a YouTuber or do social media for their livelihood. They want to be creative. They want the fame. They want to be able to express themselves, and money is a nice follow-up.
Yeah. And you know, it's crazy to think because like media and digital stuff has its own culture because look, this me making me sound like a total millennial, even though I am, but like, because old people reject it so much. ESPN still refuses to acknowledge esports as a real thing.
Wow.
And because of like, and this is a multi-billion-dollar thing. Well, I don't know if it's multi-billion-dollar yet, but it is a huge, huge deal. It is a huge deal. And because ESPN like refuses to like do stuff with them, they've like went off on their own and they have their own subculture. They have their own thing. Like, I mean, there's D Live and there's Twitch, and then now YouTube itself can stream, and there's all these platforms that do all these things. So now there's a huge division about this. And now let me give you a few numbers real quick before getting more. So, because I'm sure people out there are like, well, yeah, but there's no real money in YouTube. Like, how are you gonna make it in YouTube? Like, you have da, 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 da. It doesn't work like that.
Okay.
Let me tell you. Let me give you. First of all, like, go talk to your students and ask them for their top 5 YouTubers. I guarantee you, they're all millionaires, and they've been doing it for years.
Right.
And so there's 327 point was it 2 million people in America. Okay. To be a YouTuber and make a decent living, like I'm talking making maybe roughly $4,000 a month, you have to have somewhere around 500,000 subscribers, maybe a million. Okay. So, and then the way you get paid is through CPM, which is that's the amount of ad revenue you get. So you get ads in your YouTube video. Yet YouTube says, hey, like, people are watching a lot of your videos. We're going to put ads in it, and you get 50% of it. Okay. So you get 50% of all of this ad revenue. Okay. And you get paid per 1,000 view. So, like, the average is that your CPM, which is the rate of how much money you get paid per 1,000 views, if you get paid somewhere between $4 to $7, which is average / really pretty good.
So let's go on the low end 4.
Yeah, go on the low end 4. You're gonna be making somewhere around, if you get 1 million views a month, you're gonna be getting somewhere around like $3,000, $3,500 somewhere, give or take. With like, because I think YouTube actually takes like 49% or something like that. I mean, it used to be 30, and now they kind of upped it a little bit. But now, to put it in more perspective, and then I want you to think about this next time you watch the news, and they're like, this video went viral. It already has 3 million views. 3 million views is like not even 1% of America.
Wow.
So if I have 1 million subscribers and I can make like an okay living, like, I mean, I'm not going to be being a billionaire. I'm not going to go out and buy a yacht, but I can make a living.
Right.
With not even 1% of America. Now you take somebody like PewDiePie, who is the #1 creating YouTuber. He's actually the second YouTuber in the entire world now. He almost has 100,000 subscribers. Huge gap between him and like 3rd place or something like that. But he is a millionaire. And like, now I know his subscribers don't come all from America. They come from all over the world or whatever. Sure. But if you just take his raw number, that's 1/3 of America. He has 1/3 of America, population wise, watching him. That's insane. That is insane. And the number of channels that have 20 million subscribers, like 10 million subscribers, is a lot. Yeah. Is a huge amount. And they say that because like there's like this close connection that happens with like YouTubers videos and like you, the viewer, that people can tell when they're being like not genuine and they're just doing it for the money. Right. And they fail. Yeah. Like, that's what it is. So that's why these people want to be genuine. And that's why that doesn't surprise me at all about those, the list. And that the #1 is that they just want to be creative, and that money's like 4 or 5 or whatever it was. Right. Because like they don't really care about the money. They just want to be creative, and people want people to be creative. Yeah. So what is this? What are the implications, and where do we need to go with this in this discussion of our students and education? I mean, honestly, from my point of view, and this is just like my opinion that I've kind of developed over the last like 3 or 4 years as I was like exiting college and entering my first year teaching, that there needs to be like a basic sense, like class of like business, so that way, because no one knows how to handle money. Right. Okay. And then I think there needs to be a constant, I don't know if it needs to be mandatory, but there needs to be a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Accessible class for video editing, for photo editing, for graphic design, for music. And like, I think that a lot of my students find value in just being creative and accomplishing something.
Mhm.
And they find more value in that because they're getting the same endorphin rush as when they like post it and whatever, as if they won a trophy.
Yeah. Well, and I mean that's such a perspective, because I mean if we kind of just use this as a ballpark figure of the statistic that we found, I mean if you start looking at your class, realizing 75% of those kids, if asked deep down, want to get involved in social media for their livelihood. Now, I realize that maybe with different demographics, this might be slightly different, but in general, this is the trend. And then,
And it's growing.
and it's growing. And so then let's take a look then at how our system is designed. Okay.
Yeah.
So our current, for the most part, our current education system was sort of established during the Industrial Revolution, right?
Mhm.
And you kind of made mention to it a minute ago, like your dad, like he learned a skill, he learned a trade, and he learned how to do one thing,
Mhm.
and that's what he did. And that is perfect if you're fitting into the Industrial Revolution and you're a factory worker.
Which doesn't work anymore.
Things have changed because
Yeah.
now we're all about collaboration. We're all about team building. Every job that you can think of now has teams involved.
Mhm.
The factory model is not team oriented, it's task oriented. And so everything has changed, but the question we have to ask ourselves is, has our educational system changed? This is a very controversial topic, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions about it. But when you look at it and we signal kids to move by bells, they have to ask permission to go to the restroom, which I get it. You got to have order and structure, and I'm that's number one on my list. I get it. But look at it from a kid perspective. I go to this place. I can't move down the hallway until a bell rings. I have to be in complete control, even to the point where I have to do bodily functions at someone's command, you
Mhm.
know? Like, then our classes are designed where everybody sits in a spot. We're all in rows, and we're all given tasks to complete and check off. And then we're given a number assigned to the task to tell us if we were successful or not.
Yeah.
That's what the model looks like. Now, maybe your school's a little different, but I've taught in a lot of school districts, and this is the general trend.
Yeah.
And then we're supposed to thrust them into the world where they are on teams, where they have responsibilities, where if they don't create the product, they don't keep the job.
Now, a second ago, you said that we're not team oriented, we're more task oriented. Did you mean to say that reversed, or can you explain that a little bit? Because
Like, as far as currently,
yeah, or what I can't remember if you said it was going that way or if we are already in that. But like, what do you mean by the difference between being team oriented and being task oriented?
I think that in at least the trend that I'm seeing is we are becoming more collaborative in nature in our school system. And I think this is the beginning steps to change. And I do see a whole lot of group work and team and collaboration and project-based learning and all these things. And I think that's all in the right direction. But at the end of the day, we're still very task-oriented. It's
Yeah.
not about the process and the journey of creating a product. It's about receiving information and giving that information back to show understanding,
Mhm.
right? So, that's not how most of us want to learn. As an educator, I don't want you to tell me what I have to do and then I have to tell you back what I know. I want you to give me a problem and let me create the process so that then I own it and it becomes authentic for me.
Yeah.
But that's not what we always do for our kids. We don't create authentic learning environments. Instead, we often give them tasks to complete. So I think herein lies the challenge. And I think we see so many kids running and flocking to these opportunities that the current economic system maybe or the workforce provides the very thing that they desire, and school oftentimes becomes irrelevant to them.
Yeah.
Because it's not structured like what they know that they want to become, because now they have access all over the world through their phone to see the opportunities in front of them.
Yes, and the difference between the millennials and Gen Z is so massive because like my students, which I mean maybe you can check like that they're Gen Z, correct? Like what was the year that Gen Z started? Like when does millennials end and Gen Z start?
Give me a second, I'll tell you.
But anyway, like regardless of whenever that date is, my students today are using technology so much differently in terms of more of learning than like when I was growing up. Like when I was growing up, that's when the first iTouch came out. That's when the first like iPhone came out, and the coolest apps that you got. What? Yeah, you're
I was laughing. I was thinking about what came out when I was
the Razor and the Crazer.
right.
But when that first came out, the coolest thing was that, oh, you got an app that showed you like the heat of your hand.
Oh yeah,
You know, like, oh, it was like looked like a bottle of water, and you could like pretend that you were drinking it.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like that's what we were using it for, novelty things. And now I'm not saying that kids still don't do that stuff, but the amount of kids that are actually using it to learn. And I know like some of you guys, like there's something that I hear from my mom all the time. She's always like, well, there's no job security in that, Tyler. What about insurance? What about this?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there thinking like, there's no such thing as job security really anymore.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got a degree. Fantastic. Where am I going to get a job? Like, even as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, I think as a teacher, you have a better chance of getting a job.
Right.
But unless you're in a major city area, you're still going to be like not getting a lot of money. You may have a job, but you're not going to have that much money. And it's like, wow, like maybe I should have just been a creator like I wanted to. You know, like, I mean, maybe I could have done something like that. At least I couldn't be any worse off than I am now. Mm-hmm. You know? So when I think about the way that technology is being used differently, I also have a hard time telling my students not to use their phone in class, because unlike me, when I was in high school and junior high, that kids were using their phones in class to goof off, get on social media, like do whatever. Now there are still kids that do that, but there's like a level of kids who are actually using it to learn. And I think that we're losing them. We're losing them somewhere in the crossfires of saying like, you have to do it this way, to, well, why do I have to do it that way when like I just watched this guy on YouTube, he did it completely differently. Mm-hmm. You know. And the same thing goes with like core teachers, you know, not just music, not just like band world, but I mean, I have students who are like, you know, I never opened the textbook, I just YouTubed it. I just went on there and I found this guy, like da da da. And I found a guy who I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, he founded like this math. I think it's called Jump Math. I have to look it up, but he did it's like a nonprofit organization, whatever. And what he found when he went into schools is it was like a half, I think it was like 50% or like 2/3 of math teachers didn't even know why they were doing the math that they were doing. And it was just like, he was like, well, why do you do the reciprocal? Because that's how you get the answer. And he's like, well, if you only know how to do the reciprocal and you don't know why you do it, then like how are your students going to find this relevant? Like, I think that if we did more collaborative work and we did more media stuff with like Photoshop and things of this nature, then we would find a whole lot more engagement, because they would find immediate takeaway from it. Another example of this is I have a 6th grade percussionist who over the summer, he got like this internship thing at a radio. Mm-hmm. And he was learning how to mix. He was learning how to like EQ, like master, all that stuff. He was working with the other kids who like won the internship thing and were creating skits. And then they were competing, like all their skits went on the radio, and then like people voted for which one was the best one. And then it got its like thing. And, you know, they were making commercials for big companies, and they were learning all these things. And it was a full week. And at the very end, he was like, they were on the radio and they were talking, and he's like, hey, can I shout out to my band director? And he was like, yeah, sure, man. He's like, yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to Mr. Lamont. He's my band director. He teaches me percussion. He's really, really good. And he's really helped me. Like, a lot of things I learned in band really helped me with this. Like, And then there's like this huge pause because nothing I had taught him in band class really translated to anything that he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, he was in 6th grade. So like, I mean, maybe once he got into the high school level when he was doing like more drum set, more like live playing type stuff, maybe he would have been able to make that correlate. But then he like kind of paused and he was like the competitions we went to, 2 of them, it was, those really kind of helped me.
Yeah.
And then that was it. And it was like, you could tell, because this is a smart kid. You could tell that he was trying to give me a shout out and give me credit. And you could tell that I was like a really influential person, but none of the things I had taught him really kind of helped him. Now, I mean, you could say like, oh, he went to a competition. He learned how to follow through on a project. He learned how to perform in front of like, you know, when there was like stakes, you know, there was like something, there was something to lose. And, you know, that's all fine and good. You know, sports does that too. But other than that, there was nothing else that I gave him that would have prepared him for that. Now, if I would have known he was going there, I would have done my best to try to help him out. But it really was eye-opening to me. I was like, wow, were those 2 competitions that we went to, were those really that important? Because, like, I could have prepared him for that way, way more. And I know that there's other students that want to be doing stuff like that. And there's just countless.
Right. Well, I mean, you saying that, it makes me think, you know, I have a student that, you know, at the end of last year, he invited me to come have dinner at a Mexican restaurant, not because he wanted to come have dinner with me, but because he had created his own karaoke business. And he said, "Hey, Mr. Pratt, I'm running karaoke at this restaurant, and I'd love you to come and check it out." So I'm like, okay. So, you know, I go. And so, I mean, obviously his parents had helped him, but he had bought a karaoke machine. He had microphones, like the whole thing. The place was packed. And then I started to talk to him, and I found out he's there for like 4 hours and makes on average $250
Yeah.
for those 4 hours. And all he's doing is sitting there with a karaoke machine and handing the mic to people. So now I have a high school student, a sophomore, who's an entrepreneur with his own business, making $250 a day. And now I want you as a teacher to consider, what's your daily rate?
Yeah.
Because for a lot of you, it's not that. That kid's making more money than you because he got a karaoke machine and he knows how to use technology. This is the kind of world that our kids are inheriting. And so,
not just inheriting, but creating.
So here's kind of, as we wrap up this program, I think that you have a lot to think about. But whether you like technology or not, whether you know how to use it or not, your students are. And 3 out of 4 of them are planning to do it as a career. So as educators, we have to challenge each other, and we have to start figuring out, how do we, first of all, not get left behind in this technology era? And then second of all, how do we help our kids? How do we use our content and cater it to where it becomes authentic for their learning so that it matters to them? Because at the end of the day, they still do need good grammar. They still need to know how to write an essay. They still need to understand how math works, how science works. They need to know history. They need to be involved in the arts. But we don't want to lose them at the cost of the fact that they did not find it relevant. Because at the end of the day, a lot of them, and I'm not saying all of them will, but a lot of them could make it without us. And so it's up to us to make sure that we make well-rounded students and that we give them the skills that they need, whether it be, you know, content or soft skills, but they have to find value in what we're doing. And it's our job to change along with them. We can't keep, quote unquote, ringing bells and giving tasks, because it's not the world that they live in anymore.
And I would go and say, because I'm sure like some people out there listening like, well, y'all are music teachers. Like, this is all music stuff. No, you're still thinking in terms of like only one skill. Like I said, like those days are gone. They need to learn these media skills and these core classes. They have to start overlapping, because let me tell you what, my like middle school kids they know how to source things.
Mm-hmm.
They may not know how to source in an MLA. That's where English class comes in. But they know the importance of how to source things because now they're creating things. And they don't want people to steal their stuff.
Exactly.
Or they're reviewing somebody's work and they're talking about it. They're like they read a book or something and they're reviewing it. And they're like, oh, yeah, and this book was written by blah, 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 blah. The link is in the description. I also linked in at Amazon so that way you can go buy it.
Right.
So like they are learning the importance of like sourcing and like how you can't plagiarize.
Right. So great. Challenge to the language arts teachers. Consider a lesson that instead of teaching APA format or MLA format or whatever format you're teaching as a PowerPoint presentation where you tell them all the rules, how about you let them create something and then talk to them about how you don't want anyone to steal your creation. And so here's how you cite it.
Or even more important, like, hey, like you're going to read this book and instead of like a part of your research paper is that you're going to also make a 10-minute YouTube review of the book that's solely your opinion. So like the research paper is all factual and then the video is all your opinion. And now you have to make sure that that video doesn't get copy striked.
Right. Or what about this? What if you have kids write an essay and they have to make a 30-second promo video for the topic of their essay? So look, this is exciting because this is where education has to start going if we want to keep our kids engaged. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we're going to leave it up to you. We're out of time for today, but we're going to leave it up to you to start considering ways that you can start to cater to our technology kids because it's all of them.
Yeah.
If they have a phone in their hand, they're a technology kid.
Everything has to be cross-curricular now with technology.
Absolutely. So thank you for being here with us today. We appreciate you using your time and being a part of our program. And we want to encourage you to write in with your ideas, write in with your questions. Our email address is info@teachbigger.com. We're always excited for new ideas. If you have an idea for a topic for a show, or you have a question, or you want to share a story or a suggestion, we would love to hear from you. So thanks again for being with us. Until next time.
All right. Thank you.